Hey guys, welcome back again. We are on part 13 of this Q&A series out of who knows how many videos. Same deal as always, 10 minutes on the clock, give or take, and we're going to answer as many questions as we can. So Rory Stuart says, Hi Ben, would you say that the Kingpin-RTS idea can be used by a beginner with less than 1 year experience powerlifting to get stronger? Thanks. Do I think it can be used by a beginner? Yes. Do I think it should be used by a beginner? No. As I hopefully you guys have seen and has been outlined in the previous Q&As that I've done in this series, I think that it is important for people to not try and progress their complexity of training too quickly. A lot of the things that I know Garrett and I are doing with this are things to help someone move forward who has found a level of performance that it's difficult to progress from that. And so I think it may be just too complex at the time, and you don't need that, and you shouldn't be doing more than you need to continue your growth right now as a beginner, because there's so much more you can do with so much less work. Save that work so you have somewhere to go, and you can still put all your effort into some of the more beginner type programs and reap the benefits of that linear periodization. Stay on that as long as you can. Trust me, it's tempting to do something that some of these other guys are doing. If you're seeing people that you look up to, or possible role models, or people that you want to be like in the lifting, it's the same effect that happens when people read bodybuilding magazines and start to try to lift like those lifters. Regardless of whether or not those routines are what they're doing, it's definitely not what someone who's not in their position should be doing to get better. And I don't want to add to that confusion. I think that you should stick with beginner type templates, and if you want to increase your frequency or volume, do so slowly and at a level where you're not going to run out of room to add things in and add levels of complexity to improve, because you don't need to be training like an advanced lifter when you can still make progression with linear periodization. That's my opinion. Brannon Cummins says, most beneficial assistance work for OHP. You'd want to ask someone else, because my overhead is so poor, it is ridiculous. I've had some shoulder issues in the past. When my triceps are stronger, all my pressing movements are stronger, so I'd say for me, it's beneficial to do the overhead work itself, protect your elbows from tendonitis issues, and then work your triceps. But that's really all I can say, and I am not claiming to be a really credible source in that particular area, because mine is so poor, especially compared to my other lifting. Alan Whitwell, sorry. I noticed your overhead press increased over this shorter time span. What was your approach to the overhead press, such as rep schema and assistance? I think, okay, so this is weird that these questions get grouped together, because I'm just reading them in the order they were posted. My overhead press didn't really increase over that shorter time span. I started pretty light intentionally to make sure that it was easy, so I had room to grow, and then it kind of came back. There was a time when I was doing a lot of overhead pressing and I was a lot more proficient at it. It's the same thing if I was to start front squatting tomorrow. I would be pretty bad at it because I haven't done it in such a long time, but there was a time when I was able to do a 405 front squat without a belt. And I couldn't do that tomorrow. It would take time and progression to get back to it, and it would give the illusion or the appearance that I had put a lot of weight on that. It's the same thing if I stopped, low bar squatting for a long time and didn't squat, and I just came back, I wouldn't be able to low bar squat the same numbers until I had progressed and gotten the groove back. And so that's more of what happened than actual strength increases. I haven't hit any actual PRs on my overhead press in years, and I for a long time had taken it out completely and was focusing on the bench press as its own movement. So my approach to the overhead was to start too light and do a lot of volume work and not get greedy, because every time that I've done it, and the reason I took it out of my programming in the past, is I had gotten more problems than it had helped me with. Whether it was shoulder issues or tendonitis in my elbows or things, it was hindering my progress instead of helping it, because I would get too aggressive with my progression. And so I'd start on this time to keep it involved as long as possible. No more than a 5 pound increase in the weight at any one time, even if it's easy. If it's easy, great. I'll come back next week and add another 5 pounds, and hopefully it'll be even easier. And just slowing the progression down on that has made it better. So it's actually the opposite of what it appears to be, as weird as that is. Charnley Derek Kendall versus Andrey Malanichev. Who do you reckon will come out on top, and do you reckon we'll be seeing a 500 kg raw squat within the next 5 years? I think that, I really hope that both those athletes will continue to push each other towards more and more things that we don't think are possible, because it's awesome to see guys who are really good at what they do pushing each other. And as far as who do I reckon will come out on top, I have no idea. I think Malanichev is one of my favorite lifters. I just really like the Russian guys. Derek Kendall is, I think, he's pretty relative newcoming to powerlifting, and I know with the Libras he's gotten some more exposure and he's freakishly strong, but as far as actual powerlifting experience, he still has so much more growth to come in his own amount of time in the sport. And that's not to pretend or suppose that I know more or that I am at a higher level of understanding than he is. He does some amazing things. But just saying that Andrey has probably been involved in powerlifting, the sport of powerlifting, for a longer period of time. He has more experience in meets. He knows more about his own personal progression. I think Derek still has more time to learn more about himself. I think there's less... Andrey's got so much of this, here's what happens, here's how it works, here's how it goes, and Derek still has kind of that time to play around. Plus, I hear he is one of the most enormous human beings in the world, and just is incredibly... They're both awesome lifters. It would be crazy to see a 500 kg raw squat. I feel like there's a certain point, though, where that'd be pretty rough. That'd be pretty tough for someone to be able to improve that much past what we currently think is, the highest level. And for that to happen, I feel like you'd need to see some more innovations come out with the knee wrapping technology and things like that. And honestly, I kind of hope we don't move more that direction, because it's funny, we went from how geared powerlifting was really the high point with the West Side movement and all the guys who were just getting really big and in the gear, and the gear was getting more and more specific and intense and assistive, and then people got sick of that, so they moved to the raw movement, and then the raw movement has now started to do thing where you see in the IPF all the guys are wearing the SBD knee sleeves, not because they're raw, but because they're the most assistive knee sleeves you can get, and they do help you squat more. And so the same thing with the knee wraps. They're not the ace bandages they used to have, and as long as lifting tech continues to improve, people will keep taking it, it'll keep getting to this point where people get fed up with it and say that's not real strength anymore, and oh, knee wraps are cheating, or this is cheating, and everything's cheating, and they'll keep dropping back down. And ultimately, I feel like raw lifting is going to become as assisted as the early stages of equipped lifting were, and we're just going to have to do a reset. So I don't know. That was a little tangential and we got a little off topic, so I'm sorry about that, but that's really where I see the sport going if people keep making justifications for why they're adding more and more assistive equipment when they're saying that they're wanting to use less of it. It's just ironic to me, and it's one of the things that I think the IPF could really, some of the people who are diehard IPF fans could really take a step back and go, oh, we're kind of doing that too with the use of Olympic shoes in our bench pressing when they say it's flat-footed, because we're taking advantage of a rule and the interpretation of that rule, or oh, we're using these new knee sleeves that they didn't have 2 or 3 years ago and that are more assistive, and so no wonder the records are breaking. It's the same thing that happened when swimmers started introducing those entire body suits that cut down the friction in the water, and the next Olympics you saw every single world record be broken. Did humans really get that much more advanced in that 4-year period, or was there some sports tech that went into it? And that's just the nature of it, and I feel like there's just this constant shift of how advanced can we make this, and then how ticked off can people get to where they want to bring it back to its roots. And so that's my opinion on that. Mike Mossbrook, what's an average day of eating consist of for you, and what do you consider optimal training time? Also, what percentage of your calories for the day do you typically consume pre-workout? Ooh, a lot of questions in that, and I don't have a whole lot of time left. Honestly, I don't feel very strongly about a lot of these. I am very open to interpretation talk or people's ideas when it comes to nutritional correctness. I think that my current nutrition is very personal as far as it's not what most people would do. I don't have consistent meals that I eat every time. My schedule is really my schedule and my finances really don't allow for me to eat the way I would want to. If I had unlimited funds and unlimited time, I would eat completely differently than I do. I eat a lot of protein if I can, as little of it from supplementation as possible. I eat as much of that as I can get in, usually around 300 grams of protein. Some people say that's way too much. That's my life, that's my story, that's what I do. My fat intake's generally pretty high. My carbohydrate intake fluctuates very drastically depending on the day, and it's usually not as high as most lifters who are taking in as much protein and fat as I am. It's generally a lower to moderate level of carbohydrate intake. And percentage of calories do I take? I don't have a training time that's super consistent all the time. I don't always train in the mornings or always at nights. It's whenever I can plan it in advance, so I usually have that in. So my calories consumed before the workout differs depending on the day, and that's something that I think is an important skill for me personally to have, because I like to be ready for different kinds of situations. And if I get myself so set on this one thing where it throws me off my groove to be out of my absolute comfort zone where everything's perfect, I don't think that's a very effective way for me personally to progress. So I like to leave room for the flubs and the wiggles on that. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, rating, share it with your friends, subscribe if you have not. Again, I always feel like I get silly and I keep repeating myself when I thank you guys, but this channel wouldn't happen without all of you, and so I am so appreciative for everyone who is continuing their support, and you're all awesome, and I will talk to you the next time. Thanks again.